The Senate voted to protect same-sex marriage in a way that's never been done before.
The bill, as amended, has passed.
Mr. President, what a great day. What a great day.
Notably, the bill titled Respect for Marriage Act passed with support from both sides of the aisle. So why is that important? Well, it enshrines same-sex marriage protections in federal law. Now, the bill did have to be revised to win Republican votes, adding language clarifying some points. So it now heads to the House for a vote, after which it will make its way to President Biden's desk. Also in Washington, both Democratic and Republican leaders in Congress are suggesting they will work with President Biden to prevent a nationwide rail strike. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitali joins me now to dig into this. Ali, a long day for you, I'm sure. So talk to us about the amendments that were made, because this did not go through easily, right? I understand the bill had to be revised specifically to get more Republicans on board. Senator Tammy Baldwin, the Democrat from Wisconsin, did that. So can you just break down what happened?
Well, yeah, look, the revisions happened well before the votes today. Initially, pre-Thanksgiving, we're talking, and even before the midterms, there were certain revisions that were made by the key lawmakers working on this bill, including Senator Tammy Baldwin, but also the Republicans, Susan Collins and Rob Portman, along with the Democrat, Kyrsten Sinema, all of them working on these religious freedom issues that some conservatives had with the bill. Look, the goal was, at the end of the day, to try to get 10 Republicans on board so that this could pass the Senate. And at the end of the day, that is exactly what they did. And frankly, they did it with more than 10 votes. Ultimately, 12 Republican senators crossed party lines to vote for these same-sex marriage protections, in large part because of the carve-outs that were made around religious concerns.
Yeah, and that's pretty significant given the divisiveness we've been seeing on the Hill in the last year and the last years. And Ali, ultimately, this is about rights for same-sex and interracial couples. So what's the timeline looking like for this to actually make it to President Biden's desk? Is that even possible in this lame duck session we're seeing?
It's definitely possible, and it's the only way that it would get done at this point, because what's going to happen now that the Senate has cleared their hurdle on this legislation, it will next go to the House. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer telling us earlier today that this will probably come on the House floor as early as next Tuesday. That still gives them plenty of time for the House to vote on it. This is really on a glide path at this point to President Joe Biden's desk.
And then, Ali, I wanted to go big picture with you. Why is Congress even doing this? Because I know after Dobbs, advocates were worried that overturning the precedent of abortion access could threaten other protections like same-sex marriage, like interracial marriages. So is this a direct result of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade, or is there more to this that we need to be aware of?
This is definitely a direct result of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade, because the protections for same-sex marriage and interracial marriage, those come from Supreme Court cases. In the instance of interracial marriage, this has been a Supreme Court precedent for more than 50 years. But you know what else had almost 50 years to it? Roe versus Wade and the right for women in this country to have an abortion. 49 years after that precedent, it was then struck down this summer in the Dobbs decision. And it threw the entire way that we look at Supreme Court precedents and the rights that they give Americans into focus for the Senate and for the House. Lawmakers here trying and failing to codify abortion protections. But when they listen to some of the logic being applied to the Dobbs ruling, specifically from conservative justices like Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas, it was clear that the justices' way of thinking could have thrown those decisions on interracial marriage and same-sex marriage into similar chaos, just like what happened with Roe. And that's why we're seeing the Senate today, the House later this week, moving to make these protections, because effectively what they did today is they repealed the Defense of Marriage Act, which was deemed unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, but they also sort of put this safety net in place so that if the Supreme Court were to move and strike down the right to same-sex marriage and strike down the right for same-sex couples to marry, then what you have is the ability for states that can legally issue marriage licenses to continue issuing them, and for those licenses to be respected across the country. It does not compel states that say they don't want to issue marriage licenses. It doesn't compel states to issue them, but it does offer protections for couples so that their marriage licenses mean something everywhere.
And Ali, that's a helpful and simple way you characterize that, right? A safety net. So thank you for breaking it down. I know you'll keep us posted. NBC's Ali Vitali, thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.